Today, we are going to talk about an earth-shattering revolution, a revolution that completely changed the landscape of Europe and even the world. This is the French Revolution that took place in 1789. Imagine, in France at the end of the 18th century, a monarchical regime that had been autocratic for hundreds of years collapsed in just a few short years. In the streets of Paris, angry crowds gathered again and again, shouting slogans of liberty, equality, fraternity. The Bastille, a symbol of the old regime, was stormed, and its towering walls came crashing down, signifying the end of feudal autocratic rule. Even the aloof King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette did not escape unscathed. In the whirlwind of revolution, they were first imprisoned and then brutally executed. Hordes of nobles fled abroad to save their lives, and their former manors became ruins. The French Revolution was like a storm sweeping across Europe, engulfing the entire old world. But the significance of this revolution far exceeded that. The ideas and forces it unleashed, like a seed, took deep root in the fertile soil of modern politics. Liberty, equality, democracy. These values that we take for granted today were first ignited by the French Revolution. To this day, whenever we talk about human rights, republicanism, or constitutionalism, the influence of the French Revolution is still clearly visible. How did this revolution break out? What modern political ideas did it advance? What far-reaching impact did it have on later generations? Let's explore the answers together in the upcoming program. Okay, let's continue talking about the historical background of the outbreak of the French Revolution. Before the outbreak of the French Revolution, the ruler was Louis XVI. Although this king was kind-hearted, he was incompetent in governing the country. Under his rule, corruption was rampant in the court, and the privileged squandered money without restraint, yet turned a blind eye to the suffering of the people. Even more fatal was Louis XVI's incompetence in finance. In order to deal with heavy debts, he had to increase taxes again and again, provoking great dissatisfaction among the people. In 1789, a desperate Louis XVIII was forced to convene the Estates General, trying to discuss tax issues with representatives of various classes. But the meeting quickly reached an impasse. The commoners, who represented the Third Estate, believed that voting should be based on headcount rather than class. In the face of this stalemate, they resolutely formed the National Assembly and vowed not to rest until a new constitution was formulated. This was the famous tennis court oath. The king attempted to dissolve the National Assembly by force, but met with fierce resistance from the people of Paris. On July 14, 1789, angry crowds stormed the Bastille, a symbol of autocratic rule. The warden was killed, the prison walls were torn down, and the prisoners were set free. The fall of the Bastille marked the full outbreak of the French Revolution. Subsequently, throughout France, peasants began to rebel, burning down noble manors and refusing to pay taxes. Feudal privileges were abolished, and the flames of revolution quickly spread. The background of the outbreak of the French Revolution can be summarized as corruption and incompetence under autocratic rule, and the resulting boiling resentment of the people. Louis XVI missed the opportunity to dialogue with the people and ultimately brought about his own downfall. The tennis court oath demonstrated the determination of the commoners to fight for their rights, while the fall of the Bastille proclaimed the demise of the old regime. These events together constituted the fuse of this world-shaking revolution. So, what modern political ideas did the French Revolution actually advance? Let's continue to look. The French Revolution not only overthrew autocratic rule, but more importantly, it advanced a series of core values of modern political civilization. These ideas, like a lighthouse, have guided the direction of democratic politics for generations to come. In August 1789, the French National Assembly passed the world-famous Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This declaration stated at the outset that men are born and remain free and equal in rights. It emphasized that sovereignty resides in the people, and any regime should be based on the will of the people. Inalienable human rights, such as personal liberty, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion should not be deprived or violated. These ideas directly challenged the old concept of the divine right of kings and laid the ideological foundation for modern democratic politics. The French Revolution also abolished feudal privileges with great force and implemented the principle of equality before the law. Those privileged classes that used to be above the law now had to accept the constraints of the law equally, just like the common people. Equality before the law, this basic principle of modern rule of law, was established during the French Revolution. At the same time, the French Revolution also established the principle of the inviolability of private property. It announced the abolition of the feudal land ownership system, allowing peasants to freely buy, sell, and use land. This not only liberated rural productivity, but also cleared the way for the development of capitalism. Protecting private property became an important mission of modern civil law. In terms of the political system, the French Revolution pioneered modern parliamentary democracy. It implemented the separation of powers, establishing three mutually checks and balances branches of power: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The parliament, composed of elected representatives, exercised legislative power. This institutional design of checks and balances and popular representation became the blueprint for parliamentary democracy in later generations, with far-reaching influence. The ideas advanced by the French Revolution, such as equal rights, natural human rights, private property, and the separation of powers, together constituted the core values of modern democratic politics. This revolution, like a spring thunder, awakened people's yearning for freedom and equality, and opened the era of pursuing democratic constitutionalism. The political civilization of modern society is built on the foundation of the great practice of the French Revolution. Although the French Revolution ended in 1799, its influence was by no means limited to 18th century France. The ideological light released by this revolution illuminated the political process of the entire modern world. The ideas advocated by the French Revolution, such as liberty, equality, and democracy, profoundly influenced a series of subsequent bourgeois revolutions. The American Revolution of 1776 and the Latin American independence movements from the 1810s to the 1820s all drew ideological nourishment from the French Revolution. In particular, the wave of revolutions that swept Europe in 1848 explicitly raised the banner of the French Revolution. The slogan, "Liberty, Equality, Fraternity," once again resounded over the European continent. More importantly, the French Revolution established the basic political principles of the modern democratic state. It established the democratic republican form of government, established the equal rights of citizens, and established the checks and balances principles of parliamentary legislation, executive law enforcement, and judicial independence. These principles laid the institutional foundation of modern political civilization. To this day, although the specific political systems of countries vary, basic values such as democracy, republicanism, rule of law, and human rights have become universal consensus. All of this can be traced back to the great beginning of the French Revolution. The French Revolution also created modern political language. The terms left-wing and right-wing originated from the seating arrangements of the National Assembly during the Revolutionary period. Liberty, equality, fraternity. This slogan, engraved on the French national emblem, became an important discourse of modern politics. Whenever we debate immigration issues, condemn racial discrimination, or call for social justice, there are implicit ideological underpinnings laid by the French Revolution. This revolution shaped the political thinking of modern people, and even those who criticize it can hardly escape its discourse system. Dear audience friends, today we have walked through the course of the French Revolution together and felt the magnificent power of this revolution. Looking at the long river of history, the French Revolution was undoubtedly a great practice of humanity's exploration of modern political civilization. It used blood and life to open up a new path to freedom and democracy for future generations. This path is full of thorns, and the journey is full of hardships. The revolutionary pioneers, those ordinary yet great people with the ideal of liberty, equality, fraternity, bravely took to the streets and broke the shackles of autocracy. Some of them lost their property, and some gave their lives. But their sacrifices were not in vain. From the ruins of the Bastille, from the guillotine of Louis XVI, a new era has arrived. Today, when we enter the polling station, when we speak in the halls of Parliament, when we shout slogans of equal rights, we are all continuing the cause of the French Revolution. This revolution forever changed the face of politics, teaching people to question autocracy, to pursue democracy, and to defend freedom. It is like a lighthouse in the dark night. Even if it sways in the wind and rain, even if the situation is complex and changeable, its light still guides us forward.